good evening participants, good evening viewers. I am Gaurav Agarwal, son of my mentor, husband to a superwoman and a Bhagavad Gita follower. I am personally an entrepreneur at heart, co-founder of SMBA Consultants and co-founders Planet, currently on a single tunnel focus and a mission to empower more than 1 lakh candidates through our HR franchise network by 2021. So again, we are back with another power-packed webinar. The webinar is on a very interesting topic. The topic for the day is, are entrepreneurs born or made? And we have collated and with us some large-hearted entrepreneurs. So let me start by introducing these large-hearted entrepreneurs as well. So first in the queue is Sri Charanpreet Singh. He is the co-founder and director of Praxis Business School, a CEO himself of AIM Education Private Limited and an IIT Kanpur alumni. I consider him as a go-to person for your data science and AI requirements. He is from the city of joy, Kolkata himself. So welcome Charanpreet ji.
Thanks.
The next person in the line is Sri Ram Kumar Sheshu, the founder of Born to Win, CEO of Mark Communication Bosel Limited, ex-president of Rotary Club Bangalore, and himself is a Bhagavad Gita follower from Bangalore. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
The next in line is Sri Rajendra Prasad Yadav ji. He is the chairman and MD of Genius Consultants Limited. I term him as the big daddy of the staffing industry with 55,000 plus people, and that was the last count probably 1 month back. I am pretty sure that count has increased, and more than 1200 crore turnover. He is extremely humble and again from the city of joy, Kolkata, a local Calcutta as well for the entire session. The next in line is our moderator and our own very favorite constant and C. Soksham. She is herself Annapurna ji on a global mission to spread emotional literacy. She is from the startup capital of India, Bangalore, and with her relatively free so that she can actually take forward the entire session. So over to you, Annapurna ji.
Thank you. Thank you, Gaurav. Namaste. Good evening to all of you. Again, we are back in Kaam Ki Baat with a very wonderful session with a wonderful panelist. From the time Gaurav has told that, we are going to do this session, and with my favorite people around as panelists, I was completely overjoyed for the whole week. I was just waiting to see them, and especially Yadav sir, I met long back again, so I was waiting to see him online and just get it. And of course, Mr. Charanji, knowing you is also very great for me as I read about the whole of the business school and all. Sheshu sir, of course, he's my next neighbor. So for me, it is always that I bump into him and learn a lot from him. Thank you for being there on the panel today. And extremely great topic, are entrepreneurs born or made? And we will start this session with a very interesting topic because I just started my entrepreneurship journey. So I would like to listen from the veterans as to, how did this idea of becoming an entrepreneur come to you? When did it come? How did you push yourself? Or what made to push yourself? Or there was an Kida bolte hai na, what is that Kida which was there in your head, which was eating you there, and how did you get? Over to you, Mr. Yadav sir, and just let us know. I know it is almost 3 decades and a wonderful journey ahead which you have taken. So how did this all start, and where did it start?
So, good evening, everyone. We have an excellent panel right now. And good evening, all the viewers on the Facebook and also on this channel. So, I firmly believe that, the businessman is not made, not born, it is made. It could be by compulsion. It could be traditionally it passed to him from the family. It could be an incident by which one becomes a business person. In my case, I was in the job and the whole family had been in the job or was a farmer. So 16 years, I worked with few companies like Johnson Johnson, J Engineering, which makes USA brand fan and sewing machines. I worked with HCL, and finally as a general manager with Business Farms Limited. This was 16 years journey, During this journey, I never thought that I'll become a businessman. In fact, during working, some of my friends who went into business and they told me that why don't you join me as a business? I always said, no, I want to be in the job. I don't want to go into the business. But what happened, one incident turned to me, made me a businessman. And that incident was when I was working with Business Farms Limited. My boss was short-tempered, and we had a small factory in Delhi and an office. So he went there and there was a fraud in the company and he sacked everybody in the office, which was constituted about 15 people were in the office. And he came to me and I was heading that time the company. I was the general manager of all, that company was about 150 crore company. So I was the general manager heading the company. So he came, RP, I have terminated everybody. You go and set up once again the entire office. So I landed into Delhi. I stayed in the Bikram Hotel, I remember. For 14 days, I stayed in the hotel, and in that, in search of the branch head and the support functions, and including the bearer, I contacted almost all kind of consultant in Delhi. And those, unfortunately, in the 14 days when in the staying in the Bikram Hotel, I was fortunate that I got all the people, and I was able to make them to join them in that 14 days. But by doing this process, I realized that this is the business is for me, and one day I will make a very large company if I get into this business. This was a bell rang on my heart and on my brain. So that seed was in me. That was, I think, 1990. And I decided that one day I will start this business. But any business which you think about, without planning, without doing research, you just cannot get into that. If you get into that, then there will be a lot of trial and error and you will fail, So I did research. I started tracking how the recruitment takes place. All the ads started tracking. I became in-panel consultant of another consultant because I wanted to get into the business. So after the office hours, I'll go to that. I will understand the process, procedure, how they operate, how they the business, So it took me almost about 2.5 years to do the research and understand the business, And finally, I resigned and I gave them the 3 months notice and I started the company as a Genius Consultants Private Limited. Because I understood that, a company can be good if it is run by professionals and you build a good team with a good process and backed by technology and good HR policy.
Fantastic.
And fortunately, that company today has about 480 employees and 55,000 outsourced employees and 15 offices, 11 products and 1,200 turnover. So it took 27 years to come to this. So that is how the business started.
Super, very fantastic. I was always thinking that how did Genius start? How did this genius called Mr. Yadav started in Genius, the company? Fantastic. Nice listening to you. Yes, of course. How was that journey happened to you, Sheshu? When did this Born to Win come? And what I know you were also into corporates. You were also working over there. But what made you to shift and start your own entrepreneurship journey? Where was it all that began?
Thank you so much, Annapurna ji. First of all, namaskar and good evening to everybody here. Good evening to my fellow panelists and good evening to the viewers on Facebook. It's wonderful that Gaurav has put together this lovely program. First and foremost, I think I'm completely amazed by Mr. Yadav's journey. I think very, very inspiring, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I met you way back in 1990 for me to have started this. But let me get back into my own journey. Entrepreneurship is all about an entrepreneurial mindset primarily. Okay, so you may be working somewhere, but like he said, he related his story of how he was sent to Delhi to restart the entire operation in Delhi. I had a similar experience in my life. way back in 1987, and I was all of 26 years old at that time. I was asked by my boss in Bombay to go to Hyderabad and, to handle a branch which was a Sikh branch. There was a huge client default of about 30 lakhs. And you can imagine way back in 1987, that kind of money was a very, very huge amount of money.
That's it.
And when I went to Hyderabad, I thought it's going to be a cake. I thought it was going to be good fun, being branch manager. I'll have a car, I'll have a driver, and, I'll have a nice bungalow and stuff like that. And I was from Bombay. And initially I was thinking this is easy. I mean, it's not very difficult to get this 30 lakhs of money. What the hell? I'll go and ask that guy and he'll give me 30 lakhs. And, big deal. What's so big about this? But then I realized it wasn't going to be so easy. And I wanted to throw in the towel and said, ye matha badi kisko karna yaar, let me get back and, let me get back to Bombay. I was doing very well in Bombay and, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's when I spoke to my mentor, my father, who reintroduced me to the Bhagavad Gita. And he said, look, why don't you read the Bhagavad Gita again and, try and figure out some answers for yourself. And that's when I understood the accountability ladder that Krishna explains to Arjuna. That in life you go through responsibility, ownership, and accountability. And that's the ladder that you need to climb. And that if you take accountability for your action, then you will never fail. And that's where my entrepreneurship journey started. So I went, I recovered that money, I re-established that office in Hyderabad, then I moved to Bombay back, set up the first healthcare communications company in the country in Bombay, grew that, was working as the president of that company, so that company got acquired. And that's when I realized that, look, I must now create a generation of winners. And that's how Born to Win really, really started off in my mind in 2000. But it took me 3 years to convince myself that I should leave my very, very, very cushy life in Bombay, staying in the 21st floor just outside Nariman Point, moving to a strange city called Bangalore, setting up this entire enterprise and building an enterprise. So Born to Win primarily is in the mindset change, attitude transformation space. So we engage with the corporates and we try and get them to figure out the way in which their employees can implement the plans of the corporate. Because I realized during my corporate world journey that implementation is a huge challenge for most CEOs. Ideas are not a problem, implementation is. And that's how I started Born to Win, because I wanted to focus purely on implementation. And I found that the attitudes that people carry, the mindsets that people carry, are what comes in their way. Fascinating journey for the last 17 years. We now work in something like 31 cities across the country. Our program is run in about 7 different languages. We've got a beautiful team of about 40 people who go and deploy the program across the country. We've had the privilege of working with about 250 customers. One of the engagements that we did was even for the Indian Army, and that was an absolute privilege for us. And to date, more than 100,000 people have benefited in the corporate world from our processes. And I'm also very proud of the fact that me and my wife wrote a program which we've now gifted away. There's a program called I Am a Winner that every year impacts about 30,000 children in government schools across Karnataka, some parts of Maharashtra, some parts of Kerala, in terms of changing their attitudes about themselves and thinking of themselves as a winner. So the whole idea is this, that if each of us decides today that we want to take accountability for our future, which is the quintessential message of the Bhagavad Gita, then from that day onwards, your entrepreneurial journey starts. Whether you become the owner of an enterprise or whether you're working for an enterprise is a matter of detail, quite honestly. Okay, but the way you work is more important than actually the running of the enterprise that you're doing. And now, Annapurna, I'm very happy to tell you that the last 6 months, even before COVID started, I've been working on a project which is now reaching some level of maturity, which is to create 1 million enlightened entrepreneurs in this country. And that's something that we're doing. It's a program again based on basic, deep Indian philosophy called Antar Prerana, and we're working on this, and we're stitching a fantastic alliance across the country of people, to work on this. So this journey continues. I'm 59 now, but I think at heart, what started off when I was 26 is still continuing, still burning very, very bright. 33 years later, I still get up every day in the morning. I'm curating ideas. And that's all because of the fact that I decided to walk up the accountability ladder and become an entrepreneur. Annapurna?
Superb, fantastic. I think what I knew, I think today I know much more. I'm feeling really happy to listen to all of that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Charanji, I know Yadav sir, I know Sheshu, how they've started, what they were doing and all. Of course, yours is into completely education, the basic thing.
Yeah.
And you're a co-founder. It is like, I'm sure there is other founder also in your journey. So how did this start? Whether both of you were together, it started like that, or why did this idea come? Of course, IIT, definitely that key of entrepreneurship is always seeded even in the campus also sometimes. So I've seen that. And so how did it start for you, the journey? And then of course again back into setting up a campus. I know they come out as technocrats and they start with some technical related stuff and all, but you came back and started an educational institute. So what was all that, and when did it start, and how did it start for you?
Yeah, I think, Annapurna, you're talking of things that are happening today. I'm too ancient for those days where there was an entrepreneurship kida in every IITian. I think when I graduated, an IITian was happy to get a job. I mean, so those are the days when like getting job itself. So it was different, you felt obliged that the company's given you a job. Today, I think youngsters think that the company should feel obliged that, we agreed to work with you, right? So so it was different those days. Yeah. So I looked at your question, so why, what are the, so I picked three reasons actually, as to why I turned where I turned. One was my love for teaching. The second was serendipity or accident. And the third was a little bit of stupidity. So these are the three things that combined together, to start my journey, because I was having a very, very happy life. I was leading marketing for Hewlett Packard in the country for their entire SMB business, which was pretty huge. So there was no disruption in my life. Everything was fine. And I used to teach at one of the leading CAT coaching institutes in my spare time, right? So I used to enjoy that a lot. And the institute, the person who was there at the institute, he kind of figured out that, I enjoyed it and students liked me and all that. So he came up with this idea that why don't we start a B school together. So at that time, so there was, I was not a guy who had dreamt of starting a brand. So I think I'm kind of more towards, Rajendra's thing, never thought about, starting an entrepreneurship thing or anything like that. So why did I take up that offer? I think one reason was that, maybe this whole idea of having your own campus, with students and, kind of making it the way you think an educational institute should work, putting up a team. So I think that was very attractive, right? So, and the accident was the conversation that I had with this person who's very much part of this whole thing. His name is Kamlesh, right? But the stupidity part, which was very important at that time, was that I had been trained all my life to kind of appraise projects, to find out what is the ROI, what are the risks, and we trained at that, whether it's the IIT or the MBA and all. And I would do that every time I did anything with the company that I worked with. I had already worked for about 18 years in the corporate world with British Oxygen, Tata Steel, PwC, in consulting. So, but when I took this decision, I did not give it the rigor that it required actually, right? So I did do the numbers. I did for a moment think, why should somebody come and, start studying in a new B school in Kolkata or whatever? So sometimes I actually think back and said, actually wonder what made me do this without giving it the kind of rigor of, appraisal that it should have. But sometimes it works, right? So I think you've been lucky that it still worked. But when I think back, I think this whole, again, going back to that, the whole idea of creating your own educational campus, I think that was too tempting for me. That kind of took all the reason away. It was more an emotional, impulsive kind of a decision. And even when I work here, I'm not like a regular entrepreneur. I don't think of growth the way entrepreneurs should think of growth. I think somewhere, I'm pretty conservative in the way we run this place. But well, I mean, so you can say that some people have entrepreneurship thrust upon them. So I think maybe I am a guy like that, right? But I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Superb, superb. I know one with the situation, the other with again one more challenging situation of their present jobs. For you, it was like a call, telling that knock knock, we have to start something, and then it started off. Very great journeys. I think very wonderful journeys. Very nice to hear about that and all. Yes, coming down to the whole journey while you were taking through, I wanted to listen from Yadav sir that you have been dealing with so many clients, different clients across the country and all. So just narrate me an incident wherein you had a very tough time with one particular client and you just got over them afterwards. So how was that and when was that and how did it happen?
So, Annapurna, there have been two tough times for me, and both have been very large company. One was the initial phase, and second was just about 6-7 years back. So, initial phase, we used to do the outsourcing of manpower,
Right.
and the model in those days was on collect and pay. Of course, nowadays model is mixed, it's collect in and pay, more larger on the pay and collect. So I was in Delhi, and that time we had just opened the Delhi office. It was just about 6 months of Delhi office. So I visited a client, and he had 500 people which they wanted to transfer, but he was saying pay and collect. I said I don't have money to finance this 500 people salary those days. So he said, मैं आपको कैसे दूँ? You are in Calcutta. कलकत्ता में कभी भी बंद हो सकता है. आपका क्या क्रेडिबिलिटी है आपके कि आप हमारा 500 का है. Bills are in lakhs, 70-80 lakhs. So आपको किस credibility पर मैं आपको दूँ? So it took 1 hour, Annapurna, to explain him the journey, how I started, where I have built the company in just about 4 or 5 years. I had those days, Colgate with me, working with me. I said Colgate is working already with me. In those days, even Procter & Gamble was my client. Kevin was my client, and then I had Magma, I had ICICI Bank. So I gave all the example. I said all this company bank is giving me, which is collect and pay. And finally, after 1 hour of discussion with a lot of questions on credibility, he asked. I said the bank, bank does not give OD facility to a service company, but because of our credibility that not a single check has bounced in last 5 years, and we always have been surplus. It is always a profitable company. So I have got a OD from the bank, so I have just deposited, and what is my deposit of that 5x? I get the credit limit, OD limit, So bank has given because of our credibility they have given. It's not just like that, So finally he agreed, and I walked away with a good client and good business on that. So this was one issue which a tough time I had. The another tough time I had, when you become large entrepreneur. What happens, one has to understand that the business has to be under the legal frame. The moment you come out with the legal frame, the company falls, crumble like a card, So I've always believed that as we grow and become bigger, the company must be driven by a legal frame and by professional with lot of rules and regulations and system in the company, and people must abide, the people must follow the processes.
True.
So one of the company, a large company, I don't want to take the name, it is among the top 10 company of India. So we were doing work for them, and we had 2,500 people. So initial business was 2,500. They added another 3,000 people, and that 3,000 people came very fast. It became in just in about 9 months. But the problem was, they used to conduct exam all over India, and of the big company, and even for IIT, the exam they used to come, and most of the big institute. Now, while conducting the exam, there are they have to appoint invigilator, and the invigilator was numbers where in hundreds, someday 500, someday 300, someday 200, depending upon how many places they conduct the exam. So they didn't wanted to pay the PF and ESI to them.
Oh,
They said, no, we will pay. The invigilators are time bound. It is short, and we would not like to pay. So I initially did, because with the professional it didn't work out. So I came into the picture. I had a couple of round of discussion. Then I flew to Bombay. I met with them and I explained. Then I met with their consultant also. Unfortunately, consultant also said, it's a large company, and they also said, no, sir, PF and ESI it will not attract because it is invigilator, it is a temporary. I said, as per the PF law, even a one-day person works, or ESI, you have to pay the PF and ESI. I gave the example that I just did the interior of my office, and there was inspection by ESI, and they said कि आपका जो लेबर काम किया आप उसका ESI जमा किए. हमने बोले उसका कैसे जमा करेंगे सर, वो तो इतना दिन जस्ट 3 महीना काम किया उसको और वो ले भी नहीं सकते हैं. बोला वो आपका काम देखने का नहीं है कि वो लेगा कि नहीं लेगा, आपका काम है लॉ के हिसाब से जमा करना. And they finally calculated, and I had to pay that with interest. So I gave the example also. So ultimately they didn't agree. So with 3,000 numbers, and billing of almost about 1.25 crore per month, on the table, I had to say, sorry, sir, we can't work on this. I said, okay. Then he said, then what do you want to do it? I said, आपको मैं नोटिस का वर्ड नहीं यूज करना चाहता हूँ, आप कोई दूसरा वेंडर ले ले जब तक आपका अपॉइंट नहीं होगा, बट आपको ये वी हैव टू हैव अंडरस्टैंडिंग फ्रॉम यू, जो इतना मैं काम किया 9 महीने में, ये जितने भी है, इसका अगर कभी भी इंस्पेक्शन होता है बाय पीएफ एंड ईएसआई डिपार्टमेंट, देन यू विल हैव टू पे दैट. Then I work for जब तक आपको नहीं मिलेगा. So he gave me the letter. We exchanged the letter by saying that they gave the guarantee that if any there is inspection, we will pay for PF and ESI. And they took 2 months to appoint a vendor, and I transited everything very smoothly. But we became very good in their book. That business we lost, but that client is still with us, and we got additional business from them from other divisions. So these are tough converted into a good.
Wow. I think while you're saying this, I am reminded because when we worked together in 2009, I think that was the first time for me to sit with a vendor and tell that I'm pulling out some business because of some internal issues which has happened. And I know that you had flown down from Kolkata to Bangalore. We sat there and it was a very tough conversation. I was just thinking that how will I make a conversation with you for telling that I will be taking out the north zone, but the south zone is still with you. And things were going on. And after that, believe me, I think you were the one who played really a great role over there, comforting the whole situation, making it so pleasant. I think that's why the relationship till today is also so intact, and the business has come back again. Within 3 months, the business has come back. I know the entire team beneath you was so difficult. They were feeling, all your team members were really feeling very bad for whatever has happened. But you were the one, how nicely you have tackled there. And for me, one of that situation which I learned at that day was how to handle difficult crisis situations in these times as being an entrepreneur. And that lesson is always there in my mind. Thank you for giving me that lesson at a very early stage in my life also to me.
Actually, Anuprada, in business, in my opinion, business is a more of a continuity, consistent patience and persistence, So if you have these 4 things with you, and if you imbibe this within your team, in my opinion, business will prosper, Business is not for shortcut and for showing temper or fighting with the client. It is not. Within the problem, you have to find out a solution with the client. And that client you may lose now, but you will again come. If you believe that I'm here for long term, and business is for the long term. It cannot be for the short term. So with that objective, so if it works, will be definitely successful.
And definitely the humility factor, you have that so much, because I could see that day that humility factor was one which had created the whole difference. You could have just walked away by telling, okay, fine, whatever it is, and things like that. But I remember that so much of humility you had showcased that day. and we were back with good times again there. Thank you so much. And definitely, Sheshu sir, I would like to understand now we are listening so much from everyone by losing jobs, or they thinking that, okay, there is nothing much to do. Let me become an entrepreneur and things like that. So every fifth person I meet now, they're telling, okay, fine, you started when, how can I also start? A lot of my HR colleagues, a lot of the other business colleagues we are seeing, even the youngsters, everyone. So I would like to understand from you, is it something like this is during crisis is the time to look for an entrepreneurship, or how to become an entrepreneur? Because suddenly, because you don't have a job, then I'll become an entrepreneur, or I'll do a stopgap, or what is it? What is it in your view that people should look at while becoming an entrepreneur?
Wonderful. Annapurna, just to add to what Yadav sir was saying a little earlier,
Sure.
I think the important thing in any business, business sustainability, and I love his example, is all about respect, Annapurna.
Absolutely.
So long as there is mutual respect, and mutual respect only comes when you respect yourself. Okay, and I think that was a great example. Now, to come to the question that you asked me, is this a good time to start? Annapurna, let me tell you, there is no time like now to start, because in every crisis, there are hundreds of opportunities that are available. Hundreds and thousands of opportunities are available. Now, the issue is that when should you start an enterprise? Okay, you need to work out why you want to start the enterprise. What is your inner purpose that is making you want to start that enterprise? Okay, what is your swadharma that you want to bring to that particular enterprise? Now, there are 4 types of action that we can look at. One is inaction, the second is reaction, the third is inefficient action, and the fourth is significant action. Now, you may start with reaction. I've lost my job and therefore I need to do something. I'm going through 40, 45%, 50% pay cut, and therefore I want to start an enterprise. Now, these could be typical reactions that you're going through in life. And that is why you're saying, let me start an enterprise and let me do something on my own. That is perfectly all right. But then the faster you move from that into significant action, which means I need to take this enterprise and I need to make this enterprise deliver a particular service or a particular product with outstanding, in an outstanding way. And then don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry to say that, I'm going to be the next Bill Gates or I'm going to be the next Zuckerberg. It won't happen. So don't start the enterprise for the wrong reasons. Start the enterprise now. If you think it's a great time, go ahead. Don't hesitate to start your enterprise, even if it is right now. Now is the best time. I mean, there is no time like now to start an enterprise. Let me tell you that. Now, as far as these crises are concerned, I'm sure that, Charanpreet and Mr. Yadav will also agree with me. We've seen a number of these crises in life here. This is just one more, except that, this is a collective pause button that has been hit to the entire humanity. Otherwise, from 1980, when I started working till date, we've seen something like 7 or 8 such blips in life. This is just one longish blip that is going on and on and on. And, there doesn't seem to be any particular end date that is being put on this. So during this time, believe me when I say this, on a daily basis, I'm talking to at least 10 to 15 people, motivating them, saying, get into enterprise. There's nothing wrong in getting into enterprise. Please plan it out, think it through. Okay? But more importantly, start your enterprise because you want to deliver an outstanding product or an outstanding service. Don't start the enterprise because you want to make some money. Don't start the enterprise because you don't have a job. Don't start the enterprise because you're going through a job cut. Those are the wrong reasons to start an enterprise. Start an enterprise because you're motivated to start. So this is a good time to do so. There are hundreds and thousands of opportunities that are available. Let me give you just one example. The number of people who have suddenly become very conscious about their health has increased tremendously. And there is a great opportunity available in this. Okay. So I know of one person who is actually doing a daily cooking class and teaching people on how you can whip up simple, healthy, nutritious food And she is sending this out on WhatsApp on a subscription model. And she's making a fairly interesting amount of money. Now she said, I love to cook. So I said, then why don't you do this on WhatsApp? Why don't you get your, kid to film you while you're making this particular dish, and you can, do some stuff, and people are writing to her saying, how do I bake a cake? How do I make a biscuit? How do I do this? And she's now this is how you can actually do an enterprise. Now, will this grow into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise? Maybe not. Maybe yes. But the important thing is this: why you're starting the enterprise is okay. Okay, you may be in a particular reason that is prompting you to do so. Nothing wrong with that. But very quickly, sit down, think, what is your higher purpose? What is the product that I want to offer to the market? What is the service that I want to bring to the market? Make it into an outstanding product, an outstanding service. Put your whole heart into it. Okay? And then you can create an enterprise even now. So you need to very quickly move up that ladder and get into something which I call significant action, so that your particular product or service is going to find the market that it requires. And it's tough work. It's tough times. But even in this time, you can do it. There's nothing wrong. Okay? There are hundreds and hundreds of enterprises that have started now and are starting now and are doing, extremely, extremely well. Also, look at this clarion call that has been given. Be vocal about buying local. Now, this is again throwing up a huge market for us. Okay? That we can, each of us, try and figure out how we can do it. And especially if there are some young people who are watching this entire program. Okay? My single point thought to all of you is this: get out of that valuation funding business. Start thinking in terms of sustainable enterprises. Valuations will happen, funding will come. Okay? But right now, don't start your enterprise because you're not getting a job somewhere, or because of the fact that you think that you will get some funding from somewhere. You think you will get some valuation somewhere. Get out of that thinking. You don't start an enterprise for funding or valuation. You start an enterprise because I want to provide a product or a service that's going to make a difference in life. Keep that in mind. This is the best time.
Thank you. I think that was what we wanted to hear, that punch, they're telling that this is the best time to look for ideas, to be out of the box, get some idea, get some thing, start off wherever, however you can. That's it. That's really good. Thank you so much, Yeshu. I think people viewing us will really get motivated to, think something overnight and do something immediately. They'll get into action there. Fantastic. Charanji, of course, I know you told that it was, emotional amygdala hijack which has happened with you. And then you told it's all, I wanted to be in the campus, setting up the campus, everything and all things and all. What are those three big challenges which you faced as soon as you jumped out of that frog in the nice well and then came out? And then what are those, let us listen from you, those big challenges which you initially went through while you had come and start off this enterprise journey?
Yeah, so when you kind of told me that this is something that I have to think about, then I see the number of challenges. I think my two co-speakers will know they're multiple actually. Picking three. But what I tried to do was that I'm looking at three levels of challenges, because for somebody like me, I was 40 plus already and I was doing well, and that's the kind of time when you actually get the ROI for putting in 2 decades of work in the corporate world, right? That's where you get the plum work as well as returns. And so I think the three levels that I looked at was, one is at the personal level, the other was at the social level, and the third is the business itself. So at a personal level, there is this constant thought that did I take the kind of fooled into it by myself? I'm not blaming anyone else. To throw everything away and get into this, and I can't see the tunnel. Forget the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know where the tunnel is, right? And then you start thinking that that stupidity thing that why would somebody join a new B school in Kolkata? I mean that nobody's heard of, because this is a big decision. There's a lot of money involved in it, and much more than that is 2 years, 2 best years of your life, or crucial years of your life, and you carry that on your CV all your life. I would tell my son to, suddenly join something new unless it is like ISB, which has the whole world, kind of, promoting it and, all the big guys. We were bootstrapped. We've never taken funding, right? Okay. So I think the first challenge you face, especially for people who transition into something like this, I mean, somebody who starts life as an entrepreneur is fine, right? I think less issues. But for a reasonably senior guy, I think the first challenge is a personal challenge that, this is the time I would have had a much cooler life. And why did I do this? And do I now continue to do this, or do I cut my losses and say, no, let me get back to where I came from? So I think that's a challenge. But, when you're 45 and then when you work for another few years, you suddenly realize you're no longer a very attractive recruit for anyone. Okay. So sometimes lack of options work very well. So because I realized that my options were kind of narrowing down, I said, let me, grit my teeth and make this work. I think had I been 30, 32, maybe I would have worked, looked at it in a different way. So sometimes I think I call it the dark side of choice. When you have too many choices, it's very difficult to focus. So luckily I didn't. So or I thought I did. So so that is the first thing. The second was at a social level. Suddenly you realize that a large part of what you thought was you as a brand also came with the brands that you worked with. When you're country manager, marketing, HP, people look at you in a different way. Then suddenly, you are founder of a B school nobody has heard of. So there are interesting, I don't want to get into them, it will take a lot of time, but interesting incidents. I was called for a panel discussion at a big, very, very big college where people thought that they called me because I was HP. And when I landed up, they realized I was no longer HP. So that created a bit of a thing, why do we have him here now, right? I mean, it's the same person. And I wasn't going to speak back, much worse than I normally do just because I wasn't working with HP anymore. But you can see that thing, the visiting card loses value and you're used to having very strong visiting cards in your life, right? And people whom you have helped are the people now you are approaching and seeking help because suddenly you have to build an enterprise, right? So I think that's another thing that you have to then, I think the humility and the way the dignity with which you have to do that is very important. You don't sell yourself for the brand, you need to carry on with dignity and then you can't behave the way you behaved earlier because you no longer, carry all that with you. So I think this is a very interesting thing that you have to handle. And I think it comes with time. You kind of, finally people realize you're still the same chap and, you're still good at what you do and, it all comes back, right? So that is the second one. And the third one is the business challenge itself. It's only after I took this risk and I started building the enterprise that I realized that, why should somebody join a new B school? 2,000 other such, animals in the world, right, in the country. So then you start differentiating, you realize, you go do what is called resource-based strategic planning, that we are good at technology. So let's do something with technology. So we kind of started data science, we started data engineering, cybersecurity, digital business management, all well before COVID, right? So then you say that, okay, fine, I've found, so it takes time. And that trial and error, I think one of you was saying that, I think Rajendra was saying that if you don't plan well, you have to do with trial and error. So I think we did some of that, right? Because we did not have a plan in mind. Seriously, I mean, so we stumbled, but I think we eventually made good decisions. And that's why now we are there in Bangalore also. We had COVID not happened, we would have been in Bombay. So all that has happened. But I think challenges at a personal level, challenges at a social level, and challenges obviously at a business level. I think you need to fight with all three. It's not just business.
Very good. Fantastic. I think that's a huge learning. I mean, the practitioner is speaking there. Thank you. And yes, Yadav sir, of course, while we are going to expand, do the major expansion, and you did the expansion and things like that. While you have expanded your business, while you see on every entrepreneur's biggest issue is how can I delegate? How should I entrust the responsibility? Whom can I do it? Whether they will replicate the kind of vision, mission, passion of me in them or not. So how did that happen with you? Because I know so much you have built an empire, a kingdom of people, employees of 450 and things like that. So how did it go from you and channelize, and then the whole organization got built and the key leadership team and things like that? So what was that, and how did you make it happen there? The first line of leadership.
Yeah. So Annapurna, when I started Genius, I started as a private limited company. So I was an employee, and I was an employee for almost 60 years. So I knew what is that an employee wants and why an employee would like to work for a longer time in a company, And I also felt, that a company can do well only when you are people-centric, So, when I thought of expansion, I only thought of expansion because I thought that without expansion, how do I give career to my people? And why people is going to stay with me? So I made a private limited company. I thought of starting a branch, and I thought of starting the branch purely on the basis that, so that I can give the career expansion to my people, not that my business will expand. So with that, I started operation in Chennai. But I firmly believe that, any branch which I'll open, it will be the existing people will head the branch and he will build the team. So I transferred a guy to Chennai. And honestly speaking, Chennai ran in loss for almost about 16 months. It was a completely lost branch. And but I was making good money in Calcutta because I was very good in recruitment. People used to take my word, most of my clients. If I say this guy is good, 90% chances that my client will take, And so I used to earn good money. So I was able to supplement. But with the complete idea that, if I don't open the branch, if I don't increase the product, I will lose the good people. And the whole thing was on this basis that, initially the people whom I'll recruit, they should run my company when it will become large, So Annapurna, today I have around 146 leadership position, and out of the 146, almost about 139 people are homegrown, and they joined and they have become a leader in the company. And the top level people are anything between 15 years to 23 years in the company. So that is the first level. Even the second level people will be anything between 10 years to 15 years. So, today I'm absolutely at a peace. I play golf. The company is run by the professional. Company is run by the team, and is well managed. And even in this pandemic situations, I would say that I'm not in trouble. And I'm not in trouble only because I have good people to take on and to handle that. So once you have a good people, then you will have a good client. You will have a good process. You will have a good technology. You will have good HR policy, you have a good reputation in the market, and you can depend, the most people is the trust and dependability by a person on the company. So the trust and dependability becomes very high. So because of this, I kept on expanding, and each branch was open with the own people who was in Calcutta. They went there, they stayed. And of course, now most of the branches are run by the people who are anything between 10 years to 20 years old. In Nilappa, who was heading the Bangalore branch, was for 14 years. He, he started basically the Bangalore branch. Yes. And today, even the person who is heading the Bangalore after his leaving, he's also 5 years in the company. So I have registered leadership position, taking people from outside. I've always believed that the leadership position is safer in the company if is from the within. In my opinion, if I have a two person, one is from the outside and he's very bright and he scores 10, and if I have a person internal and he scores 6, I'll prefer to take 6, not 10. So with that, I expanded, and fortunately, this formula has worked for Genius.
Yes, absolutely. We are seeing it, and I was wanting to know the secret masala of yours. That's all, because I've seen the other side of the story. The other fantastic leaders, the passionate guys who always love that whole of being belongingness was so high and things like that. So I was understanding that कौन सा आपने वो मैगी वाला मसाला डाल दिया वहाँ पे. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And over to you, Ram, where we wanted to understand, of course, you have already told that there is a purpose for doing Born to Win, and you are working on a very larger purpose and all. So how did this purpose, come into your mind, or when did it start there? And do all entrepreneurs need to have a larger purpose, and that's what will make us to be a differentiator, or how is this? And how can we also know to create a purpose? I mean, a person like you, I would like to understand that from you, definitely.
Well, again, just sorry, but I'm completely fascinated by Mr. Rajendra Prasad Yadav and Charan Preet.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I must add to Mr. Rajendra Prasad Yadav ji. Sir, ITC has been an old client of mine.
Yeah.
Many years ago, we did a wonderful line for ITC when they were launching Welcome Group Hotels. I used to be in a company called Ulka Advertising those days, FCB Ulka. And we wrote a line, sir, saying that the best means of growth come from within. I think, this line is something that you should use possibly for, your internal employees and motivate them. But Annapurna, just to come back to your question, how do you discover your purpose in life? And I completely empathize with Charan Preet when he says that, I too, Charan Preet, started when I was 42. So, but my journey started when I was 26, but, starting this own company of mine and then getting into it myself started when much later. I think the point, Annapurna, is very simple. I keep telling young people a simple point. Start putting down, what do you actually love? What do you love doing the most? Like Charan Preet said, I love, teaching. I love helping people. Like Mr. Yadav was very clearly saying that, look, I love putting together people. Now, these are enterprises that are built on love, like Born to Win. Okay. When we started 17 years ago, everybody said, okay, so do you do training? And I said, well, not really. No. Do you do personality development? No. Do you do communication skills? No. Do you do English training? No. Then what do you do? I said, but I'm not a training company. Just because I work with human beings doesn't make me a training company. Okay? I work with human beings. I work with them on their mind. I try and change their mindsets. And I get them to change the way they think. So why did I start Born to Win? Very simple, because you see, I used to be in advertising, I used to be in marketing, I used to be in communications for a long time. And I realized then that, in the boardroom, organizations can come up with the best of strategies. But when they take it to the market, the implementation completely falls apart. So I used to have customers of mine, and, we used to do these large campaigns for, very, very successful companies, big companies. The strategy is working beautifully in the West, complete disaster in the South, or doing very well in the East, just not getting the same traction in the North. And that got me thinking, saying, what is the problem? Is there something wrong with the strategy? Or is there a problem with the implementation? And that's when I realized that, look, there is a huge gap between what people are capable of doing and what they're doing. And therefore I said, how do we bridge this particular gap between what you're capable of doing and what you're actually doing? Is there a possibility to build a bridge between the two? And that led to a lot of research. And fortunately for me, I had, as I keep telling everybody, I had the best mentor in my life, my late father. And he kind of mentored me in this. He used to be when he retired, he was the chief engineer of Hindustan Petroleum. And those days when he retired way back in the 80s, he was, Hindustan Petroleum was a great company. And he taught me all of these things, saying that, look, how do you implement? Why don't you go back and get a philosophical construct on implementation? And therefore, what we do today is very simple. We take a client's biggest challenge. It could be productivity, it could be cost optimization, it could be quality, it could be deliveries, it could be deliverable. It could be any of these challenges that a company throws at us. And we go back and sit down and think and come back with a design by which their people will figure out a way of getting those answers that they already know.
Right.
You see, every one of us, honestly, in the last, I must tell you this, in the last 17 years that we've been working across the country, we are not domain experts. So if somebody comes and says, can you do 5S? No, we don't know what is 5S. We really, really don't know what is Kaizen. We don't know what is 5S. We have no, we know, but we claim that we don't. We say, look, you work out what has to be done. And we will tell you how you can implement it and take it to the next level. So the point really is this, that you must, there is a particular model that we work with, Annapurna, and this million entrepreneurs that I'm talking about right now is based on 4 building blocks. The first building block is something that we call Ichha Shakti. You must have a strong desire to do something. That has to be backed by something called Jnana Shakti, which is the wisdom, the knowledge of the business. Why businesses fail today is because somebody has ignored the business of the business. And then you must have something called Kriya Shakti. Kriya Shakti is the ability to actually go and implement what you want. And then to have the Manu Shakti, which is the mental strength to persevere, to keep focused, to be one-pointed, to go ahead and do it. So if we can do this, any business can work, Annapurna. Many years ago, let me tell you, last story I'll tell you. Many years ago, I was
just 1 minute. I think we should take a permission here because Gaurav, I'm so sorry because today we have very eminent personalities with us. We will take 10 more minutes. So viewers, please stay tuned because we have to listen to all of them. 10 more minutes. We will definitely, because I know it is closer to 8 now, but we will wrap it up in another 10
just
more
take
minutes.
30 seconds, Annapurna.
Sure, go ahead. Yes, Gaurav. Thank you.
I was in a place called Vijayawada. And somebody told me that there is a guy here who claims to make the best idlis in the world. I said, are you mad? What are you talking, Vijayawada? And I went there, and this is a place called Babai Hotel. It's a small little thatched roof. And the guy says, I make the best idlis in the world. And I went and had some idli, and there's a waiting line. And the guy starts his shop at 5:30 and apparently closes at 7:38 in the morning. And we waited in a queue, and then I went and I asked him, I said, look, how do you claim to make the best idlis in the world? He said, because I believe they're the best idlis in the world. So this guy has discovered his purpose in life.
Right.
Yeah. Back to you, Annapurna. Thank you.
Thank you. So nice. And that is a great example. And of course, I have tasted Baba Idlis. Thank you so much. Yes. Okay. And definitely, Charanji, I would like to know that because understanding so much from your, from the way, the journey, everything and all, did you or are you now feeling during this crisis time that, okay, education getting online, I'm not there in the campus, what I wanted, what was my passion to be there in the campus, to see these children coming there, learning, debating, discussing, everything and all. And of course, a B school means it's a happening thing. And now we are telling that no more in the campuses, it's all online and all. So is it like if you're given another chance, another amygdala hijack, would you go back and tell that, okay, I will leave away education and I will see some prawn culturing or some other thing, or out of the blue, something else, or mountaineering, or I don't know, whatever it is? Or you think that, no, I have made a right choice, and you tell that I have to continue to this and stick on to this? What would be your take on that?
Yeah, so Annapurna, I was never under pressure to start something, right? So if I had a choice between, the choice is only between not starting this school,
correct,
and continuing with the job that I had, or starting the school. So I'm not even looking at other things to start and all of that. I always think that it's a very stressful thing to do. Start something on your own and all that. Tough things. It's good to do tough things, but it's also good sometimes to do easy things. I love to do easy things actually. No, but here the thing is that you see, this is again, I think Mr. Ramkumar already said, as he said, we've seen a lot of crises. We are ancient enough to do that. So it's not. So I think people are calling out a lot of things a little too early. Like everybody is now saying that everybody is going to work from home, all education is going to go online. The world doesn't work that way. I mean, we've seen the Spanish flu and it did not change the world overnight, right? Okay, so I think human connect, I mean, people are not going to stop meeting each other just because we had COVID, right? And everybody, and I think I was reading an article that work from home is going to destroy two things, work and home, right? So there are disadvantages of that as well, right? So I think that, yeah, what is happening now is people are seeing options, right? So if I were an employee and I said I can work at home because I don't have small children or old parents, or, I have large enough place, I have an option to work from home, fine, But there are a lot of people who are actually having a lot of trouble working at home because they don't have connectivity or they don't have the right atmosphere. Women sometimes, people don't realize that they are working and they still work, they're still given things to do at home while they're working. So same with education. So we've shifted all our teaching to online now. So it's not that we are not teaching, but again, even large institutes across the globe are struggling with this whole thing, and they're saying that the profs are missing the emotional connect, the students are missing the whole networking, the sitting and all of that. So in some sense, people are going to kind of respect campus much more now after this is over than they used to, because when something is not taken away, you don't realize the value of it.
Right, fantastic.
Yeah,
I
so
think
I
that's
think
the right message. Missing of on the campus.
Yeah, but the only thing is what it has worked for us is that we have strengthened our online delivery, which we are now going to use for other things also. So I think I think it's, I again go back to Setu sir, it's an opportunity.
Right.
Because we've been driven to that. So I look at that. I think it's not a good time that we are going through. No point, you're saying that it's great that we have COVID. No, it's not.
Correct.
But I think we can still.
I got your answer. Charanji. That means however Yadavji or Sheshu or myself come and tell, boss, come and join us or do something with us, you will tell, no, I'm very happy with my praxis and I will be with that. Okay, awesome. I got it. Thank you. Then.
I mean, at this age, I'm not starting anything new. I'm very clear.
No, Sheshu has already told there is no age factor. At 60, at 59 also, he's telling that I get up, I do everything with my passion and do lots of things.
I'm 58. I'm 58.
No problem. Age is just a number. Yadav sir will tell us that you can play golf at 84 also. Yes, that's fantastic then. Okay, Gaurav, I think some questions have come. I think let us take these questions and maybe we can answer them little bit, keeping them short so that we'll also have a final message to our viewers today. Go ahead, Gaurav, with your...
so the first question is a bit lengthy one, though I'll still try and manage to read that.
Okay.
It's from a CXO who want to keep the name anonymous. He asked, he is currently working at a big retail giant. So he's thinking about starting business, but it is very hard to leave the every month credit the salary that comes in. So what shall be the trigger point to actually get into the business?
Sheshu?
Who can I go with that?
Yes.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Sir, it's very simple. I'm sorry, I'm calling you sir. I'm hoping you're okay. I think let's make it gender neutral. I think it's very important. Look, if you're doing well in life and if your salary check is getting credited every day, and if you're happy with what you're doing, don't start the enterprise. Let me be as blunt and straight as that, sir. To you, my friend. If, however, there is a deep desire within you to do something and you want to make those sacrifices, then you should. Now, let me tell you my journey. When I moved to Bangalore in 2002 and started Born to Win in 2003, I had suddenly to move from two cars, one for me, one for my wife, chauffeur-driven cars in Bombay. And I started going in BMTC buses for meetings. I started going to hotels and changing in a hotel room, in the bathroom of 5-star hotels, wearing my tie, wearing my jacket, which I used to remove. I had to do that. Humiliating? Yes. Humbling? Yes. Satisfying? Absolutely. So, sir, it's your choice. You want to go through the humility circle and be satisfied? Do it. Otherwise, sir, be where you are. Believe me, in another 5-10 years, you can start playing golf, and if you're not already doing it right now.
Yeah, that's a nice, powerful message over there. Thank you, Sheshu. Yes,
So
Gaurav,
the
next question.
second question is from an entrepreneur who is running an agency. He's asking how to handle bad clients. He has cited one example, people who might troll you, as it is very easy nowadays to tag in the so-called digital world. So it is very, very easy now that clients can point fingers at you. So how to handle these kind of trolling people?
Hmm. Yadav sir, I think you have handled huge clientele. I would like to, you only to again give one more
yeah.
tip there.
So, when you start a company, or maybe in the first 4 or 5 years, the first thing is that do not make a bad client, or do not appoint a difficult client. For example, when we started, in those days, my idea was that we will not work with partnership, will not work with partnership, and also proprietorship. And private limited, if it is a company, at least it should be a 50 crore company in those days, in the beginning of the days, So preferably we will work with only with a larger company, which is at least 100 crore turnover company, or 50 crore, 100 crore turnover company. So that was the idea of that, So with that idea, if you go, chances are that you will have a less number of difficult clients. But if you come across a difficult client, now how do we define the different difficult client? In my opinion, if a client is a progressive, if it has a money, if he has a source of giving the business, it cannot be a difficult client, It is the person who is joined and who has taken the chair, he is a difficult. So you as an entrepreneur has to learn to manage that difficult person. Now remember it, that any difficult person cannot hold on the job for longer also, So he is there for maybe 6 months, 8 months or 9 months. So you have to just manage him 6 months to 8 months, but you do not lose that client, because a good client is a good client. It is only the people who joins. It could be good or it could be difficult. So you have to manage that person. So in my opinion, manage that person 6 to 8 months, and make that difficult client as a progressive and a longer, It has happened with me, there are clients where some difficult people have come and has created nonsense, and we just manage 6, 7 months. And I have told the team, that a difficult person, remember it, he will not be able to hold the job. He will go away, but you have to stay with that so that you can hold on the client. And this is how you can manage a difficult client.
Fantastic message. Fantastic message. I think that's something which I think the person who was asked should implement it straight away.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yes,
Right.
Gaurav?
I think in the interest of time, I should share all these questions over the mail to all the panelists, because the questions are increasing and some of them have already been answered during the discussion. So I'll actually go to the final message now.
Okay, then I think, yeah, we told that we will stop by 8:10 and then we are there dot. So now this rapid fire round for all of you, just that one word, because I know you can give me lot of paragraphs, but today for us, for our viewers, ek kaam ki baat for our entrepreneurs born or made in that perspective. One word you give us and we close with that. Yes, over to you, Yadav sir. What is that one word? Only one word.
See, for an entrepreneur, one word will be difficult to say, Annapurna. So one word I would say, you need to be extremely passionate about your business.
That's it, passion. Lelia. Yeah. Then, Sheshu sir, one word.
Ji jaan se kaam karo.
Ji jaan se kaam karo. Again, that's also coming to passion, but anyway, ji jaan se kaam karo. Okay. Yes, Charan sir.
Yeah, I would say be fact driven.
Fact driven. Okay, yeah, this is something very good. Fantastic. Yeah. I think I have thoroughly enjoyed, and I took permission of another 10 minutes because otherwise I was the one who was to wrap up all the episodes by dot at 8 o'clock and rush away from the scene by telling that it's all done and all. But today I couldn't afford to do that because I know there were interesting learnings, and viewers, I know that if need be, we should call them back again once more because they are such a plethora of knowledge and their encyclopedias that we should learn from them. I think no book can replace these stalwarts who are there in front of us. Thank you very much, Gaurav, for organizing this Kaam Ki Baat. And today's series was very awesome for us. Thank you, Yadav sir. Thank you, Sheshu sir. Thank you, Charan sir. And the three words which we go with today is passion. And I will, Ji Jan say Kaam Karo, I'll put it as passion and fact driven. Okay, with these three words, we close it. And thank you to all. And thank you very much. And it was wonderful being over here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best and good night. Good night. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you all our viewers who were tuned in on Saturday, and thank you the extended family, everyone who have taken out time. Thank you so very much.